All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the summer series, Coaches Takeover. My name is Jessica. I am a mentor coach with Positive Presence Global, as well as the Special Projects Director. And my task today is to talk to you all about overcoming an obstacle that I went through in my life. And when I thought of the obstacle, I had to bring in Justin, who is, oh gosh, my savior, my trainer, my friend, my confidant, my everything. And I'm so excited for this series. So for those of you who don't know, this is Justin. He is my personal trainer, as well as like my guide, my everything that possible, like my therapist, everything. So Justin, like, tell me a little bit about you. Who are you?
Yeah, of course. So a little background about me. I've been a trainer now for the last 6 years. I worked with the U.S. Olympic Committee. Outside of training, I do a lot of spiritual guidance. I'm also a yoga instructor. And I'm really just a soul here looking to help people find their way home. That's why I feel like I'm here. And that's what I love to do with everybody, is just help them find themselves and connect with themselves. And I've loved sharing that journey with you, at least your own awakening, and everything that's happened to you since you and I have met has been a seriously beautiful unfolding. And yeah, I love sharing that with all of the people I come in contact with, and all of the people who I get to share little pieces of their journey with. And that's really what I do.
I love it. And you're so good at it.
I try. I definitely try.
Yeah. And like, I think our journey together has, you've gotten like even more better at it, just like through the whole time that I've known you. It's just like your own journey along with it is amazing.
Yeah, I'm always a teacher first, right? Like everything that I do is to better myself, right? And getting to share that with you is how I bring it into the world. So yeah, yep. I'm always trying to be better. I love that.
So good. Okay, so a little bit of overcoming obstacles is actually speaking publicly about my obstacle. I don't speak too much about it because it was a really, really big obstacle in my life, and it took a long time to heal and to, get through. And I think I'm still probably healing every day from it, but I'm just going to give my obstacle in a nutshell, because I don't want to go too much in detail, because I'd like to actually talk about the journey rather than the obstacle itself. But for those of you who don't know me or don't know my background, before I became a coach with Positive Presence Global, I was extremely active in the wine business. I had passed an exam called the Master Sommelier exam, which there's like documentaries on Netflix if you really want to learn more about that. But it's a pretty rigorous, very intense exam. It's a 3% pass rate. It's rated the hardest exam in the entire world. It took me 12 years of studying to be able to pass the exam. And the year that I passed the exam, there was an exam tampering scandal. One of the proctors of the exam decided to give away some of the answers to some of his students. And instead of the board of directors doing an actual, like, following due process and doing an investigation to know who could have had access to the answers, who went in with the exam being completely fair and not knowing anything, they invalidated all of our titles and told us we have to sit for the exam again. And at the time, I wasn't so bothered by it. I had gotten the phone call from a board of director, and she told me what was going on. And I was actually like on my way out the door to go mentor a group of my students to pass their own exams. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm happy. I'll taste again. I'll, resit for that portion of the exam again. No problem. And then I got to the mentor session with my students, and it went public while I was there. And one of my closest students just looked at me and was like, "Are you okay? Like, what happened?" And I didn't know that it was going public that quickly, so I didn't have any time to really process anything. And I completely lost it. I was crying. I called the board of director and I was like, "Wait, okay, I'm actually not okay. I need more information." And And then I convinced myself that, okay, I can do this. I can sit down for the exam again. Not realizing the trauma that it was going to bring up throughout, my whole life, not just the exam. And when I sat for the exam again, it was basically like the whole entire room just crumbled on me. And it took like 3 years of therapy to realize that it had nothing to actually do with the exam, why I was so traumatized by the process that wasn't given, or the lack of due process, I should say, that it brought up a lot of childhood trauma and a lot of rage and a lot of self-doubt and gosh, just like everything. And so after my first reset of the exam, I was teaching in front of a group of a lot of students, and the person who was introducing me, because the whole scandal happened, they didn't know how to introduce me. They introduced me as an advanced sommelier, which is the level below a master sommelier, and in front of the entire group of people who didn't know me. They just came to take the class from me, got to see me go full rage, and I hit her head off in front of everyone because she didn't call me by what I deemed my proper title to be. And in that moment, I realized I had an issue and I needed to control my rage. And I went to Lifetime, which is the gym just down the street from my house, and was like, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to control my rage. I'm going to do it by working out. And the director, the coordinator, whoever picks the member who goes with whatever personal trainer, did some magic and gave me you, and I met you, and the journey kind of started from there.
Yeah, the journey did start from there, and that is a beautiful introduction. And I definitely knew some of that backstory. I didn't know that initial rage story from that event, and that's something interesting. And I definitely could see you being that way in the beginning when I first met you, but now you are completely 180, maybe even 360 degrees in your new journey, a completely different person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so beautiful to be able to reflect upon and see how far you've come. But I get that a lot, in my line of work. That's something that a lot of people come to me with, is especially when we are going through our careers and going through our lives and trying to become something or trying to create something out of our lives, the realization that other people aren't going to perceive us the way that we want to be perceived. And for a long time, and for a lot of people, that brings up a lot of insecurity of like, no, I need these people to view me in a certain way. And I think that fitness, and what I found through fitness, is that it's one of the quickest ways to, control your anger, but at a deeper level, connect with yourself and believe in yourself and believe that all that matters is what you know that you're capable of and who you know who you are from the inside out. And I've seen that through you. I've definitely seen, so backstory from when I first met Jessica, I realized that, okay, she was new to working out to some extent, at least in the gym. She didn't have a lot of experience. So taking you through understanding how to move your body was the first thing that we worked on, and coming to terms with, okay, there's all of these limiting beliefs that we have, and how do we listen to them the right way, and how do we turn them off, right? And I would say the beginning of everything that you and I did was taking our time to understanding, hey, what is going on here in our body, and how do we find value in just listening to ourselves? And only from there can we decide, like, hey, we're going to go after some kind of goal. And that was our first thing that we really, set forth with in the beginning, was yeah, just taking it day by day. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And whoever we become through this journey is who we become through this journey. It's more of an understanding of who we are. And yeah, and we played with that of just showing up for ourselves in the gym for, I don't know, it was probably about 2 months. And then after about 2 or 3 months, I really started to see you slow down and connect with yourself and say, hey, actually being in my body and feeling my workouts and achieving this and committing to it. Because when you committed to it, something very interesting about you was you're the type of person who, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 100%.
Oh yeah.
And when you came in, you said, okay, I'm going to follow a diet to the T. And I want to follow a workout program to the T. Yep. And that's a very like type A personality type behavior. And that's great. And I would say after you did that for your first 2 to 3 months, you realized, okay, this is doable. I love it. And you really connected with yourself. And I think that's when you learned and what you learned from connecting with yourself is, how do I put my energy in one direction, to go and achieve something? And that's really what people gain through working out, is saying, hey, I'm going to take something from start to finish and I'm going to achieve it. And what that then did for you was, or at least what I saw from my perspective, was it opened the door to so much more. It allowed for you to say, okay, let me take this same thing that I just learned, starting something from A to B, learning exactly everything that I need to do to at least get started on my journey, finding and surrounding myself with the people who I know can get me from point A to point B because they're respected in their field by their title, and then taking my own steps along the way, and whatever it's going to be is whatever it's going to be, but I'm constantly learning throughout my journey. And so then 3 months from there, I say that you then found yourself picking and choosing where you wanted to go in your life. And from there, you and I decided, okay, we're going to build some muscle and we're going to completely change the way that your physique looked, right? Like you really wanted to push yourself in the gym. And we started to do that based on building muscle. And the greater thing, though, that I see is that, from that point forward, after you really started to connect with yourself and say, hey, I'm going to focus my energy and attention in one place and learn how to control my energy and move my energy through my world, that's when all the doors opened up for you. And I think that that's the teaching that the gym gives people. And that's really, really where the doors of fitness start to open up into the outside world. And I think that your story really started to unfold from there. And I think that was definitely the beginning of all of it.
Yeah, definitely. And even just like the progression of when I first started, we were boxing, you were having me like hit big ass tires with a sledgehammer. Like we were just a whole different realm of just like, I think you just helped me get the anger out. Like in a healthy way, which is, I had no clue how to get it out in a healthy way besides just yelling at people. And that's obviously not healthy.
And for me, to that degree, when I'm meeting with people, it's showing people that, one, they're capable of a lot more than they think they are. This little victimized persona that a lot of us carry around with ourselves just because of the trauma that we go through doesn't realize how capable that it is, right? It's constantly looking to, move from one place to the next, trying to get to the next location, trying to get to the next thing. It never slows down enough to say, hey, I'm okay right here. And even when things that I never thought that I'd be doing, the hardest workouts in the world, or the craziest tire flips and lifting 100 pounds over my head, all of those things that probably 2 months or 3 months from before we started that you could have never seen yourself doing, getting into those types of situations and saying, okay, you're still here, you're still giving it what you've got, and that's okay. Yeah. And for most people, that realization of like, okay, when things get hard, there's still a part of me that has a little bit more. There's still a part of me that's not touched by any of this, and I can push through just a little bit harder. And once you start to touch that place in yourself, the whole game just starts to change. Once you start to know that you can always come back to yourself and just focus on something else, focus on your breathing, focus on anything, you'll see that there's another way to play the game where you're not this little victim, you're someone much greater than that who can withstand all of the things that you've ever been through and all of the things that you will go through. And and from, that point, you touched that place for sure and ran with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it took me a little time to get there for sure. It was a whole different world, like, controlling your body the way you had me, controlling your mind, I think was probably the big thing. I never controlled my mind in the way that I needed to be able to do the things. And I feel like we were just talking about this not that long ago. Like, I had a massive fear of failure when we first got to started. Like, I wouldn't even do a rep because I was like, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm not going to do it. And now it's like, oh, I need to go to failure. Okay. And now we can go to failure. But like, there's like a huge shift so for those of you I didn't even mention, I've been training with Justin we just hit our 3-year anniversary earlier this month. And that's just nuts. And for years, like, I started as this person who, would be so afraid to do movements. If I didn't see myself being able to do it, I wouldn't do it. If I didn't have, death metal playing in my ears, I couldn't do a heavy lift, like all these different things. I had to tap into something external. I couldn't find it within myself. And through this process, like, it's made me learn how you have to go internal to be able to find those things. And I'm kind of just realizing this as I'm talking about it. Like, when my temperament changed, our last PR season, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to lift this stuff without heavy music. Like, it doesn't even help me anymore. Like, how am I going to do this? And that was kind of a new journey that we had just gone on with that, is how you tap in internally rather than using some external source to be able to do something.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was saying, right? Like, once you start to touch that deeper place within yourself and seeing what more you are capable of, right? What more you are capable from an internal perspective rather than an external perspective, there starts to be this trust, right? There starts to be this inner faith in yourself of, like I said before, like, whatever's going to happen here is going to be whatever's going to happen. If you've got it today, you've got it today. And that's huge. That's so huge. Like, in this society, like, a lot of us are so focused on the external world giving us everything that we want, as well as the possibility that it could take everything away from us. Yeah. Right. And what you really found through working out is that realization that within me is everything that I need. Right. And that's a really beautiful thing. And that's a beautiful thing to see. And everybody gets to that point through working out. And I love seeing that part of everybody's transformation. And when I say, what do I do? It's creating that space in which you can feel safe to fail, in which you can feel safe to do whatever you got to do today to just be yourself, and a lot of people never get that. We don't oftentimes hear in society, okay, it's okay to fail. It's okay to show up and not feel 100%. Those things are okay. We're humans. Like, we're not going to feel 100% every single day, but it's an equally beautiful paradox that we as humans want to invest so much in us showing up for ourselves, that we want to give it our all, and it's that balancing of how much of the fire can we put out today? How much can we show up for ourselves versus how much do we want to show up for ourselves? And of course, we always want to give it our all, but sometimes our all is just showing up at the end of the day. And it's really that. It's really being with whatever is. and what it's going to be is what it's going to be. And that's my philosophy every single day. So when we talk about like PRs and all of those things, like to me, those things really don't matter when I look at fitness now, you know, and that's such a huge evolution in my own career is anybody can come in and lift weights. But how are you talking to yourself while you lift weights? How are you connecting to yourself while you lift weights? And you'll notice now, you know, through the training that you and I do. So backstory in our training, we did lift really heavy because for those people listening who might not know a lot about fitness, your body makes changes based on stimulus. Your body makes changes on external factors being greater than what your internal factors are used to. Okay. Those are all fine and dandy, but if your internal voice is constantly saying, I need to run away from this, I need to hide, I'm in fear that things aren't going to be okay, there's a part of you that's still not growing. And it's that part of you that always listens to the mind and runs away. And it's how do we confront that voice, you know, and how do we allow those deeper aspects within us to grow? So going back to our training style now what you realize is, okay, the external stimulus, if they're really big, if you're lifting really heavy loads, yeah, you're going to get growth. But if you quiet your mind down and you just accept what is and you feel what the weights are doing, you can get even deeper into those places that allow for change from an internal level and from an external level. So not only will you grow better muscles, but you'll also be so much more connected to everything that you're doing because you're listening to feeling a mind-muscle connection. And that's something that you and I are working on right now, is tapping into feeling what is the body doing. And I think that that's lost in a lot of fitness is, you know, a lot of times people go to the gym and they just want to do the reps. It says, hey, we've got to do 3 sets of 12 reps, and that's what we're here for today. And for some people, that's great. But if you just slow down and you just focus every single rep on what is really happening within the body, it opens so many more doors, not only in the quality of your success, but in the quality of your internal being as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because we were just talking about this a couple sessions ago, how much our training is different and how many movements we used to do versus how many movements we do now. And like for those of you listening, we played really, really heavy. And I still don't realize how heavy we play because this is just how I lift, but you remind me every day how heavy we used to play. And when PR season finished, so PR is personal record for anybody listening who doesn't know fitness and they're like, what the heck are they talking about? And so for the winter season in Vegas, which is like October-ish to March-ish, it's cool enough out here to where I can eat a lot and we can push really heavy. But once it gets hot out here, for me personally, my body, I don't like to eat very much. And not say I don't like to, I just can't eat that much food anymore because it's so hot. I mean, we're in, you know, over 100-degree days for the majority of the summer. And the beginning of this new off season, I've hit a different realm because of all of our progress and a little bit more of a journey that I'll talk about in just a second, that I was like, okay, I want to understand how the muscle works with this. Like, can we just play with mind muscle movement? And I think when I asked you that, you like lit up. You were so excited to go in a different realm versus what we've ever done before.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one thing to lift 900 pounds, right? Like there were times when you and I were lifting 700, 800, 900, close to 1,000 pounds for reps, you know, at times, sometimes 3 reps, sometimes 4 reps. And like I was saying before, like that's all fine and dandy. Like anybody can be strong, but it's a totally different game in the fitness sense to understand the feeling from a muscle fiber perspective and the ability, almost like meditation, to get your mind into what is happening in the muscle. And that goes back to what I was saying before. If you begin to quiet down and you just focus on, let's take a bicep curl, for example, because everyone can understand that, right? So what is going on as your arm moves up, right? What is this feeling like inside of my muscle? And what does it feel like when I add weight? If you can start to really feel what that feels like, your ability to create stimulus just completely changes. And for me, that is the number one thing that I think will get people to achieve their goal in the quickest time possible. You look at someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, where he would say that he could take a 30-pound dumbbell and get a lot more stimulus or a lot more response from his muscle than someone who would take a 100-pound dumbbell. And it's exactly because of that. He could focus enough on exactly what he was doing and slow down the reps enough that he could feel every single fiber of his muscle. And that is how he, quote, built his physique. And the reason why my eyes light up is because once someone starts to question, okay, what is really going on? That's when I know that they're starting to feel, and in yoga, that's one of the things that we often, strive to do at first is just give people a chance to connect, right? Just give people a chance to come into their bodies and say, what is it that I'm doing? How am I moving, right? Like, how do I create movement here? How do I just be with myself? Because after we're children, the amount of time in which we spend playing drops down drastically. Like we very rarely get to just be in our bodies. We go to work, we have jobs, we pay bills, we do all of those things, and oftentimes we forget, like, hey, this thing that we're doing for a majority of our life before our adulthood was spent running around and moving and playing and feeling like it was at home with the universe. And all of a sudden, like, we go into this work life and things get really scary and we stop doing it. It's coming back to that feeling of play, coming back to that feeling of I'm just in my body and I'm here and this is something magical that I can do with myself. And it's teaching people, okay, let's go play now. Let's go start to figure out what is happening here. Let's understand our body. And that's kind of where the yoga and weightlifting meet is that feeling. And so when you say, like, oh, my eyes lit up, it's because of that. It's I understand that's where the real change happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that kind of started, I mean, I was so anti-yoga for so long. Like I was all Pilates. I've done Pilates the majority of my life and got really serious with Pilates like 3 years ago, almost the same time I met you. I met Heather right after, who's my Pilates instructor. And I was always so like, oh, I don't want to do yoga. And then in 2020, in February of 2020, before COVID happened, it had already started, but I was ignorant and I didn't know what it was at the time. And I was like, I'm going to travel. I don't care. And so I did,
We all were. I said we all were.
Yeah, we all were.
At that time, we all were. None of us knew anything going on at that time.
No. And I had scheduled a trip to go to Bali because, that's the thing you hear when you're in the realm of fitness, like you have to go on your spiritual journey and everybody does that in Bali. And I was like, okay, I got to go do that. I had to go to Bali. And I did a layover in Taiwan and then I spent about a week in Bali, and it was my first trip ever. I didn't plan a single thing besides where I was staying and when I was arriving and when I was leaving. And every day I woke up, I went and did yoga. I had a private pool in my villa. I would do a swim. I would go shopping. I would take myself to lunch. I would go explore. I would go do whatever. But every single day I ended up going and doing yoga. And I was like, I never would have thought I would have done that. And by the end of it, I was doing yoga like twice a day because it it changes your mind. And you have to like really dive deep into your mind to do some of these postures, to stay held in these postures, to get your muscles to stretch, to do any of that. And I think that's really when all of that began for me. Is I call 2020 my journey of finding myself. Is one, like COVID kind of made us all go really internal, for the majority of us. Like we all came out of COVID learning something about ourselves, fixing something about ourselves, starting a company, like something. And I think that's when everything really changed. Personally for me, was getting through that and then starting the process of, that's probably when I started asking you, like, why, when all of our movements, why does this work this way? Why does this do that? Like, why is this way? I think one time I even asked you, like, does it bother you how much I ask you why?
Yeah, that's funny. And yeah, and everybody, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people, you know, had that same experience, you know, going up into COVID and our lives, you know, completely stopping it. It kind of forced into what I was talking about earlier was, you know, like for so long, we're just going, and we don't get a chance to stop. And COVID really did that. You know, it really told people like, okay, let's put the brakes on things. Like, let's take a second and reevaluate, you know, what is it that we're doing here, right? You know, when we ask like, why, that question, why, right? Like, where does the question why come from? It comes from our desire to just understand more, right? And understand more about, you know, what it is this whole world is about. And I think that's where the yoga finally comes in, is, you know, like, why are things the way that they are? And that's all of what the yogic studies and all of the yoga things are trying to figure out, or at least they've already figured out, trying to point you in the direction of, right? And I really noticed that for you. And we could take this a million different places, but I think the biggest place that I think people should come to is going back to that point of what you said was, it takes a lot of what happens behind your mind, right, to get into postures. And what is that, right? It's that same place that we were talking about earlier of, there's a part inside you that isn't touched by everything. When things get hard, how do you come back to that part inside you that isn't touched by the entire drama? And from there, that's our realization that, okay, this world isn't exactly what we think it is, right? Like, we are a soul who has shown up here and has come to do work on this plane. And it's coming into that realization that, hey, everything that I was told to us maybe isn't exactly what it is, right? Like, let's take like the jobs, for example, right? Like, everybody kind of had a chance to stop, and everybody worked from home, and everybody maybe started to have the realization that, okay, my work isn't as maybe seriously as I take it, right? Let's go back to like the role of the master sommelier, right? Like, yep. I could ask you, how much does what your title is now matter to you, right? How much do you define yourself, right, by the role that you've given yourself, right? Like, I think that's what the biggest thing that COVID finally did for people is, you know, it gave them the chance to stop and say, okay, who am I? What is going on? Let me finally take a break from my work, my everything else, to just focus on, either was it home? Maybe they realized, like, because they were living with their families, I don't like this family that I'm living with. I don't like this life that I've set up for myself. I don't like any of it. And let me find out now, what do I like? What do I want to do? Right. And it really just ripped the Band-Aid off for people. Right. And I think with your Bali experience, when we talk about, you know, things from who are we, right? If we're souls, I think it was the beginning of your awakening, right? It was the beginning of you connecting with that part at the deepest level. Yep. You know, and coming into what people talk about is like your inner child, right? You talked about your exploring and your enjoying of your trip. And and those parts of you that maybe you had neglected for a long time, because for so long you had been worried about, I need all these external things, right? So when I listen to it, I hear, okay, she went inside and she touched a place within her that felt alive in the universe because it came out to play. And now I feel like coming out of COVID, I feel like what that's transitioned to for a lot of people is finding out, okay, now how do I consciously place myself in places where I can create the reality for myself that I want to see, right? And I can start to manifest things into my reality that I want to see come to fruition, or, you know, live the life that I really want to live, not the life that everybody thinks that I should live, right?
That's the big one. That is the big one, is getting over what you think you should be doing because of what other people want, other people say, other people believe. That was the hard one for me. And that's what COVID, I think, did for me. And like you mentioned that it made a lot of people stop and a lot of people contemplate. And that happened for me. Like I was like, do I still want to do these exams? Do I still want this title? What does this title mean? What is this title even like? What's the purpose of this?
Mm-hmm.
And it made me really go to a place that I don't think I definitely wasn't comfortable going.
Yeah.
And it forced me. It forced me to go there and to realize, like, okay, what is it about the wine world that I love? And then I realized it was mentoring. That is my favorite part of it. And it's like, okay, well, how can I manifest this life? Or mentoring can be what I'm doing, where I can be working with people in a way that's not just for a wine exam, because like in the grand scheme of the world, what is a wine exam? Like the wine business is like minute amount of the entire world, and not even like this like really important one, and like life and living healthily and finding ourselves and things like that. And so I think that's a really great point, because that's exactly what COVID made me do.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, like, that's what we all need to do, right? I think that, like, the biggest thing that we can all do for ourselves is get out of our way in the way in which we perceive our drama, right? And what I mean by that is, for most of us, we see that the world does things to us. We like to see ourselves as victims of the world. And instead of our true nature, the true unfolding is everything that's happening is happening for us, right? And understanding that we're always right where we need to be, and understanding that, you know, this is just an unfolding of our storyline, and understanding that everything that we want to see, we can see, and that the world's going to be exactly what we make it. And it's very interesting now to understand, to help people understand that our minds are what create our realities, right?
Yeah.
So going back to your journey previously up until where you are now, prior to that, you were definitely in your trauma self, is the term that we like to use for it, right? It's that part of us that is on the go because of what people told us we needed to be, because of some system that we were born into, right? That our parents told us was real, that our teachers told us was real, that everyone told us was real. You need to go to school, you need to get a job, you'll go and do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be happy.
Yep.
And you look around, and people with the most money, people with the best bodies, all of those things that you could want in this world, they aren't the happiest people. So what is it? What is it that we're supposed to be doing here? And it's what you said. You know, it's connecting with ourselves. You know, it's going internal and realizing that inside us is everything that we ever need. Inside us is everything. And now that you've touched that place in you where you realize that within me is a much deeper bank of love and gratitude and everything that I could possibly need in my world, how do I bring that forth? And that takes you out of your trauma self and brings you into your true self, right? And now that you start to self-actualize and understand who you truly are, you can now align yourself in directions that are gonna bring forth all of the things you want to see in the world, right? And it's learning now, because of what you learned in the gym, of how to put my intention or put my energy in certain directions. Now, taking the steps to see those things come to fruition. And really that's kind of where you are now, and you're bringing forth, like PPG, all of the things that you want to see in your world. And mentoring is definitely, you know, one of the ways in which we as people who are on the path give back to those who are coming up and wanting to know, you know, what should we do with our lives? You people who have done this the few steps ahead of us, show us the way, please, you know, because we're all just walking each other home. You know, at the end of the day, we're all just helping each other come to our true selves.
Yeah. It's a actualization or realization that I had while you were mentioning that is like when I was my trauma self, the way I spoke to myself versus the way I speak to myself now. And even in the gym, like, man, I would like hit my muscle if it wasn't like doing what I wanted it to do, or I would like cuss myself out in my head or sometimes out loud. When I was just really mean to myself, like, why can't you do this? You need to do this. And now I'm like I just had COVID not that long ago. My lungs aren't working great right now. And I'm like, okay, I love you, lungs. I'm going to take care of you. And like, or my muscles are doing a good job. I'm like, oh, look at you. You're doing such a good job. Like, I didn't even, I mean, I realized it, I was doing it, but it didn't even trigger until the way you just said that.
Yeah. And we all do that, you know, we all do it consciously and unconsciously. You know, there's certain ways we treat ourselves. And one of the phrases that I keep coming back to is, you know, you're in need of your own kindness the most, right? That love and that compassion and the things you want to give to other people, our first and foremost duty is to give it to ourselves, you know. And when we talk about, you know, manifesting, one of the biggest keys to manifesting and creating a reality for yourself that you want to see is gratitude and self-love. That's the biggest ingredient for that recipe, right? Like if you are constantly upset with yourself, if you are constantly upset with the world around you and the way things that are going, and you can't find just that little bit of thankfulness to be alive, yeah, you're never going to see the things that you want to see in this world. No. It's that understanding and that self-love and that touching and that understanding of who you are that allows you to show up for yourself, you know, to do you, to be who you are. And that's the biggest thing is just stepping out of who you are and stepping into who you are.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Michelle, I won't say it exactly the way she says it, but she has this quote that says something along the lines of, anything that happens to you, by you, through you, within you, something like that is a manifestation of you. And so like if you're in this place of a negative mindset, you're going to see the negative things around you. If you're in this place of a positive mindset, you're going to see the positive things around you, and you're going to like manifest positive energy to keep coming at you. And it's something that I had always heard people talk about, but I never really understood until like, when did all of this journey really begin? Like December, January, when I was like, okay, I need to figure out what to do to be in, like, to become who I want to be now. And, you know, I would say something out loud, and like the next day it would happen. And I'm like, what the heck? Okay, is this manifesting? I'm magic. This is so cool. And like, I never understood it. I just thought people were crazy. I'm like, that doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work like that. You can't just say something and have it happen. And then the hard part is listening to it when it does happen. Is, you know, I'm on this whole new journey, and like all these things keep happening, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, you're freaking me out. Like, why do you keep giving me all of this stuff that I'm asking for? And I don't even know what to do now, and I'm scared. I think that's something that, like, I don't even know how you get from that journey to, maybe just the whole process of finding yourself is how you get there. But like, even I'm at the point now where all of it still scares me.
It's funny. Yeah, like the synchronicity, right? I'll go back to something you said before. It's that you said you wanted to learn how to become who you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. Your life isn't unfolding, right? Like who you are is really just watching the unfolding, right? It's all just watching the passing show, and we're really just learning how to dance in the show and align ourselves with what we want to see. And yeah, once you start to quiet down and focus your attention, your ability to manifest the things that you want to see in your life will become like this. Like once, and they talk about this in yoga, is called the cities, or the powers that come with the powers that come with meditation. You look at everybody, the CIA meditates now, big businesses want to meditate now. They don't want to become yogis. They just want to have the powers that come along with focused intention, right? And it's that. And the farther out that you go, or the deeper that you get into the game, it only gets more interesting, I'll tell you that. But as you learn how to control your powers, it's like with great power comes great responsibility, right? And you learn how to use it in ways that help compassionately in the world and bring you what you want to see in the world. And that's really what it is stepping into yourself, that birthing process of coming back into the understanding of who you are. It takes time, and it takes a relearning and a shedding of all of your old ways. And you'll realize that there'll be times in your life where you'll go up and you'll feel really high and you'll feel really great. And then you'll have to come back down, and you'll have to do more work in your lower frequencies, right? Where the world seems really heavy, and then you'll go back up and you'll come back down. And that's just the play unfolding. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that I've seen you start to realize in yourself through your journey into energy healing, has been just that, right? It's the understanding of not only how our chakras create our realities, but how from a day-to-day level, our energy is just going to change, whether it's because of things that are going on with the collective, like the rises and outbreaks of COVID, whether it's social issues, or whether it's just your own general frequency because of a bad recovery, or indulging and not going to sleep and not listening to yourself, all of those things that affect your frequency. It's coming back to your practices to raise it back up, right? And always finding that balance, because yeah, it's crazy to see the synchronicities, but it's also crazy to ride the rise and fall of the drama as it unfolds as well. Yeah. And yeah, I think that what you've seen through energy healing has been that you're wanting to now balance yourself in places where you feel really good and really high and really at home in the universe, right? And yeah, I would love to hear more about how you've been feeling through your energy healing and those things.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I actually have my session with Shalane next week. When I first started seeing her, I'd see her like every couple weeks.
Can we give a background on who Shalane is, by the way?
Oh, yeah, good job. So Shalane is I just call her my energy healer. I think I don't even know her actual title. Yeah, do you know Shalane's title?
She's a yoga instructor and an energy healer and a very conscious being as well. Yeah.
She's just incredible. And the first session I ever went to her, so I live very much in my upper frequency, my upper chakras. I'm very much in my head. I'm very structural. I'm very planned. I'm very type A. And type A people don't live in their lower realm. My lower realm is, in general, everybody's lower realm is like family issues, creativity issues, sexual issues, anything could be in that lower realm. And I've always made myself stay up in this realm. And my first time ever seeing her, and I went in like not really knowing what was going to happen, and was like, I'm just going to give this a try. I don't really know. I didn't have a lot of faith that anything was going to happen differently. But, and actually I initially went in because I thought she was going to do the sound bowls. Mm-hmm. I had my first experience with the sound bowls in Bali, and I love them. I actually have my own set now because I love them so much. And I went in thinking she was going to do just a sound bowl session with me. And I got in there and there were 0 sound bowls in the room. And I was like, what is this going to even be like? I don't know. And I had a lot of doubt. And by the time we finished, she does this thing where she grounds you. And so she's basically like trying to pull your energy back down. So it's like flowing through you properly. And I don't even know if I'm explaining this properly, but, and by the end of it, when you're grounded, your lower half of your body is quite heavy. And it was so heavy that I could not get off of the table. And I was like, Shalane, what is happening? Like, I cannot lift my leg. Like, what did you do to me? And she's like, you're grounded now. Like, you've never been grounded in your entire life. And then at that point, was when I started thinking like, okay, how can I start changing my life in certain ways? And she goes, you just need to ask the universe. You need to start doing mirror work. You need to like have writing on your mirror where like mine was, I never felt loved. I never felt worthy. And worthy was a big one. Like I couldn't even say the words, I feel worthy or I am worthy. And now it's just words for me. I can say them, but before I couldn't even say it. And so she had me as homework, right on my mirror, I am loved and worthy of happiness. And I would brush my teeth and I would look at it and I would never read it out loud because I was like, this is just silly. This is dumb. I don't want to do this. I feel stupid. And then I was like, literally, there's no one in the house to judge me. It is just me. You need to like at least try this. And I still didn't do it. And then the next time I saw her, she goes, how was your mirror work? And I was like, I read it while I was brushing my teeth. It's just, well, that's not mirror work, but okay. Like maybe this time you can try to say it out loud. And so that's when I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to do it. And now I have stuff all over my mirror and anything that sparks my mind that I need to realize that I need to work on, I write on my mirror and I change it. And I sit and do mirror work now and have all these things. And I was asking her, I was like, how do you like listen to yourself? How do you listen to the universe? How do you even like ask for things that you need? And she's like, you just put it out there. Mm-hmm. And if your mind's in the right place, if you're listening the way you should, if your energies are balanced, if everything's the way it should be, then it's going to start happening. And then sure enough, like everything I was asking for the next day it would happen. And I would just get so freaked out that I was like, at one point I was like, okay, universe, like this is a lot. And I was like, but don't stop because I like this, but kind of give me a break because I'm scared.
I know that feeling. I know that.
And I mean, I'm still on the learning path of all of that. I still don't totally understand it all. Obviously, by the way I'm describing it, it's very basic the way I'm describing it, but yeah, it's a whole new journey. Now I'm out of my healing from the trauma, and now I'm in the journey of just like becoming one with myself and listening to myself and trusting myself. And the way that I have been able to get there is through fitness, through yoga, through energy healing, through Pilates. It's all come from my body first to be able to access my mind, my soul, my spirit, all of these things.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, and that's exactly what energy healing is, right? Like our chakras, and you did a beautiful job of explaining them. I don't even really have to add anything. You know, your lower chakras, and there's 7 of them. Your lower chakras, the first 3, are all playing a part in the way that your ego manifests in the world, right? So whether it's your sense of security or your sexual identity, those are the lower 2, or your job, those are good. That's going to be the 3rd one. So for you in the beginning, your first 3 were your sense of somebody, right? So you had your early childhood and all the things that happened there, and with those traumas, and that definitely hurts your sense of security in the world or your feeling of worthiness, right? And then from there, it's okay, how does that manifest into our sexual identity and the things that we look for when we're looking out into our relational models, right? From there, those same patternings continue upwards, and they continue to create blockage in our 3rd chakra, which deals with all of our professional and our ego and our sense of mastery and that needfulness of you wanting to be like the master sommelier, right? Like that's a very 3rd chakra type of experience, right? From there, that's why working out and yoga take place around the 3rd and the 4th chakra. That's why a lot of business people find working out so great for them is because they go into it thinking that they want to achieve something. Same thing with yoga. They go into it thinking they want to master the postures, right? But what it starts to do is it starts to move that energy upwards, and you go into your fourth chakra, which starts to be your heart. And then you start to touch that place within you that is greater than everything else, right? And you start to want to live in a compassionate world, and you start to have compassion for yourself. Then from there, you start to go into your throat chakra, which talks about all of your communication with how you speak, as well as your communication with the divine, into your third eye chakra, which is all about your intuition and your ability to manifest things. And then your crown chakra, which is the unity that you were talking about at the highest point. And it's energy healing is making all of those things work as one. And it's helping you play all of those realities out all at one time. And that's really what we're here to do, is to balance all of those identities that we have. Our sense of security, our sense of sexual identity, our sense of wanting to be good in a profession or do something that we totally love, our sense of being souls on this plane and sharing a world in which we all want to see each other live happily and in peace. And from there on, all of the divine and so forth, right? Everything else from that point can't be spoke about in intellectual thought anyways. So
yeah.
So yeah, like that's really what it is. And you just explained that. And that's such a beautiful thing that you can see it now taking manifest in your life, and at least giving it its due credit, because I think that for sure is the most important thing that we can do. And it comes with time. It comes with us first starting to question, what are we doing here? Once you start to question, what are we doing here? Then, like you said, you start to step into your own, and you start to learn how to play the game from a totally different perspective.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, who would have thought that this huge thing that I spent 12 years of my life like trying to achieve back in 2018 was the pinnacle of all of this. Now in 2022 is not even that big of my, like, not even a part of my life really anymore. Like I'm not doing the exams anymore. I don't associate with the company anymore. I don't value my worth based on it anymore. Like it all has changed. And they always say, like, as you mentioned, like everything is meant to be for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And when you're in like the thick of it, you're like, man, just shut up. Like, no, I'm hurting right now. It's not for a reason. This sucks. It's terrible. And don't get me wrong. It took me 3-4 years of really deep, hard work to get through it. But whoever would have thought, if you told me 5 years ago, I would be a mentor coach for the largest life coaching company for struggling teenagers in the universe. I didn't say universe because why not? At least in on Earth. And in this new journey of like fitness and health, and like I don't even really drink wine anymore. It's like I would be like, nah, that's you're on crack today. Like, no, like it's not happening.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that you brought up a great point. It's like a lot of times you'll hear people say like, yeah, things are all perfect. But yeah, things are all perfect and it does suck. I think it's very important that people don't lose, or they don't push things away because of their, spiritual beliefs or any of those things. I think that it's very important to also bring up the point that, yeah, in those moments, it's very real. And yeah, you don't want to hear any of those things. You don't want to hear like everything is divinely perfect. You'll come back up for air. Like you'll come back and listen. That's the fun of remembering is seeing like, okay, yes, at a deepest level, I know that this is for me, but yeah, at the same time, it really hurts. And it's learning how to balance that truly. And then you'll come out of it, and then you'll realize like, okay, now I'm stepping into a new chapter in my life. And when one closes, and you can keep going upriver, or you can turn back at any point. Like that's the other great thing about this is, you can go as far as you want and see all of the things you want to see in yourself, or at any point you can go back. Why you would go back, that's up to you. But
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. So yeah, I love that.
Well, I mean, we could literally talk about this for hours, but I feel like we're getting close to time. So, for the audience's sake, I think we can. It's a really good place to probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I want everyone to be able to have access to you and reach out to you if they want to. So, like, how can people learn more about you, reach out to you, get a hold of
Yeah,
you?
the best place to find me would be on my Instagram. I'm on there most frequently. I'm at Sin City Shaman, and I'm sure we can link it in the notes to this somehow. Or simply as texting me. We can even put my phone number out here. I'm definitely comfortable with putting my phone number out there. And anybody who wants to, reach out to me, whether it's spiritual guidance or whether it's fitness related or yoga related, I'm always all ears for anybody who just needs someone to listen or just has questions on, what direction do I go in this, or I'm dealing with this, or these things have happened to me. I'm always here for that, regardless of who you are. So yeah.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you so much. You've been such a big part of my life in becoming who I am now and my journey of who I am still becoming. And we're 3 years strong and still going. And it's just, it's really beautiful. It's really special. And I appreciate you so much for just making me feel comfortable talking about this, on a podcast that I was like, I don't know, I'm afraid.
That's funny. Of course. Yeah. Like that's the thing is like, we're all just sharing our experiences at the end of the day. We're all just sharing our experiences and we're just talking to ourselves. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, to the audience, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and we'll let you get on with your day. And do you want to end it in any special way?
Oh, namaste.
There we go.